So let's talk about a training meeting. First of all, let's talk about how often should we be meeting as a team? I feel like that's a subjective question. And it's going to depend on our different agencies. But I would say a handful times a week. I like every day. I think training every day is a big piece to the consistent success that I have. Sarah, I love that. We have morning huddles every day. Would you bring up a good point, Sarah? We can meet in a huddle for 5-10 minutes, or we can do like a 30-minute training, 30-minute to an hour training, right? Maybe there's a mix of both. Maybe you do a Monday morning meeting where it's a half an hour. And then on Tuesday, you do a huddle. And then on Wednesday, you do a meeting. Thursday, you do a huddle, right? I love that, Sarah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's cool. But we got to be training still. Like in those huddles, if they're 5-10 minutes, there's probably not a lot of practicing and role playing and training that's happening. Those for me and our agency were more of like accountability meetings, where it's like we talk about where we're at with the specific promotion that we're working on, where we're at with our numbers, and what our goal is so we can see that gap and kind of create a strategy of like, this is what we've tried, let's try this and let's go out and let's do it, right? So it's more of accountability in those things, but let's talk about the structure of these team meetings because I think it's important. Number one, I think accountability is a big piece to this. And accountability also has this weird feeling about it. I get it. Like a lot of people don't really like to be told what to do. They don't like to have people breathing down their neck about, hey, did you have all your conversations today? Did you get all your quotes in? Like, I get it. But accountability doesn't have to happen in that way. I think alone, just having accountability in each training meeting, and it could be as simple as, hey, let's see where we're at with this promotion. Let's see where we're at with our auto growth this year. Let's see where we're at with our life insurance policies. Let's see where we're at for the month. That's accountability. We're reminding our team of where we're at. First, we're reminding them where we want to go. We're showing them and reminding them, here's where we're at. And then we're building that gap. So it creates urgency for all of us to go out and have conversations, right? So I think accountability is important. Something that our office manager did with us was in these promotions, she would keep every single meeting we had this, she would have it printed out of exactly what we had submitted, what had been issued, and what we have left. And just that alone, guys, helped us as team members be able to prioritize what we needed to do that day and where we needed to focus. Okay, helped us know that, hey, you got to keep doing this. We're falling behind. Let's push the pedal to the metal. Let's do a few power hours this week. Or we're right on track to keep it up. Or it's, look, we're halfway there and it's not even a halfway through this promotion. Why don't we just finish this thing out in the next 3 weeks? Let's create an incentive. Let's challenge ourselves and do it. So accountability. And it could just be reviewing where you're currently at with things. I think that is an important piece to these meetings. The second thing is action items. I think we should all have some sort of action items that we're leaving our team. And they could be as simple as, hey, we just trained on this sales process today. At some point today, read it out loud to yourself in the mirror, or pull up your phone, record yourself, and then go back and listen to it tomorrow, right? Or it could be, hey, we're all going to go and try to find 6 life insurance conversations to have today. Like an action item. Give your team members something that they can take away and actually have a focus of what they're going to go and do about what you just trained on. And as part of your accountability, if you're doing an action item every meeting, your accountability should be going over those action items, how it went, right? I've got a team member coach that crushes it. Him and his agency, they hit like a top tier level with their company as far as like their production goes this last year. And he told me that the biggest thing that had changed for them was just starting to do consistent trainings. And so I asked him a little bit about what they do. And he said, look, every single day, everybody has an action item, but then every time we meet the next day, as part of our accountability, we talk about the conversations that they had with people. We go through them and we talk about, what did you run into? How did you feel, right? They're literally going through their day before yesterday. They're going through yesterday and identifying how the implementation went. So it's now we can actually coach people on what they actually need. So he said that was a big deal as far as their consistent success was the consistent training that they were doing. But again, it's that accountability piece and helping them that makes that work. So accountability, give them action items. And then I think it's important to role play and practice. I think that is important with all of our training meetings, right? Whether you do it as a group or maybe you split everybody into twos, right? Just get to where we're feeling comfortable. And again, going back to the role playing practice, you need a sales process. So it makes things predictable. But when you have the sales process in the script, get them that. And then the role plays, it's twofold. One, we're going to practice the delivery of this thing without a single objection until we can get it more compelling. That will build so much confidence in your team members. It's insane. And then once we get there, then we're going to approach objections. And guys, this could take a few months, and that's right. Take a few weeks. It just depends on the team member. But what happens is when we build their confidence through competence, they go out and they make it happen on the phones and with people in front of them because they know what to say. They know what to say next because it's what we've done on in our training meetings. And then I think just the training aspect, right? Like I think there's really 3 pieces of training that we could be looking at. Number one, it's understanding the products, right? Product knowledge still needs to make it in there. Product knowledge. And my agent was really good at this, the one that I'd worked for. He would go into kind of the resources from the company, print off a specific policy, and we just learned that policy that day, right? We learn a little bit more about it, and we'd also incorporate fun, make it fun. We would do Jeopardy, right? Product knowledge Jeopardy. That's huge. That's how I learned a lot of the products, and it kept it fun. We do like boys versus girls or this office versus that office. It was a good time, right? But product knowledge needs to be trained on. So our team members know exactly what products do, the difference between each, but don't get too carried away with it. Second thing is our team members, we need to know how to quote. We need to know how to quote. We need to know how to do the application. And again, I had to learn this as I started coaching team members. Is like, look, team members could have exactly what they need to have a compelling conversation, but they're still not having the conversation because they're a little scared if they say yes. They don't know how to quote it. They don't know how to do the application. And as simple as that sounds, guys, some team members deal with that. So that needs to make it in there. And then the last part, as far as our training, is how do we sell this stuff? How do we be compelling with this stuff? Product knowledge, quoting an application, and how to sell it. And that's part of our training that needs to make it there. And then we need to practice. So I think those are the elements that, as I've looked over the evolution of the team member perspective that I run now and just coaching team members and seeing what works and what doesn't, what the trends are, what worked the best. Have accountability in every meeting, have action items, training, and practice. Like that is what I would dial in your agencies and include those things in your team meetings. Okay? And it could look like this. You do your accountability, you go through the promotion, see where you're at, see where you need to go, right? Then you start training. Right. And maybe for that training meeting, you decide to do product knowledge and you're going to learn about the auto insurance policy and then you're going to practice it. That's it. That could be one meeting, right? Or another meeting could be like, we trained on this last week. This meeting is worked on is just for practice. I'm going to bring a handful of scenarios for the group. And we're just going to practice them. Part of our team member perspective group, we've got a lot of done for you scenarios that a lot of team members will just pull up in their team meetings and just start running through with it and practice, right? Spend more time practicing instead of trying to create a scenario that's real, feels real, and you do your action items and you're done, right? So again, accountability, action items, training, practice. I think those are the 4 elements, but I'd also include this 5th one, which is some sort of motivation. I don't like that word, but get your people excited. Help them remember what they're working for. Remind them about that trip that you guys have planned, that if you hit these goals, you're going there. Pull up a motivational YouTube video. Get them thinking and get them inspired. Get them in that right state of mind to go and attack the day. Help them get out of their own heads and into conversations by doing that. Perfect. All right, that was a lot. Chandler, I would like to just open it up to some questions, and I'm going to look through and see if I missed anything of what I wanted to cover. But guys, again, the biggest thing I would say is training isn't something that we did, it's something that we do. And the best of the best agencies, best of the best team members are ones that take that seriously. They perfect their craft. They're never satisfied. They always want to make it better. And that's what I've seen.
We're waiting to see if anybody has any questions on this part. I would ask one that comes up in my office a lot for agents that say we're not using coaching platform where they give us the topics and things like that, because I know a lot of agents do use them. But if you don't, one of the struggles I have sometimes is coming up with topics. Like I start feeling like I'm repeating myself, like every day, like telling your kids to pick up their clothes. It's the same conversation. Where is there a way that you guys, when you do your training stuff, is there a way you guys keep coming up with these topics and different ideas? Is that you're just breaking down different areas and then thinking about different things to talk about and then creating presentations or meetings around it? Like, how do you go about finding your topics?
That's a great question. Take some time and prepare. Like preparation is the mother of success. And let's see here.
Can you hear me? We good?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
We're good. My one AirPod died. No, but like the best meetings that I have had are the ones that I spent some time preparing for. Don't be afraid to prepare. And I feel like if you prepare more, the meeting runs smoother and we're actually focused on stuff that actually moves the needle for our agency.
And then another one on here was, where can I find information on the ladders and buckets?
Yeah, so I'll drop the website for Randy's insurance agency training. It's a
Oh,
great, yeah, stairs and buckets, I believe is probably what he meant.
and the last one on here is, can you repeat the 4 pillars?
Yeah, so the 4 pillars, and I actually added a 5th there at the end, Catherine. But the 4, they're going to be accountability, action items, training, practice, and some sort of mindset.
How did you do that?
I don't know. I don't know how I did it, but almost think of it like a checklist, right? Like I think every meeting should have either training or practice or both, but everything else should have, every meeting should have the accountability, action items, and some sort of mindset. I think that's a good guide to give you as you create your team trainings, right? And another thing too, I think this is important as you're training. I think it's like it's a skill to learn how to give feedback. It's a skill to learn how to coach people up. 2 things that I'll say with this that I think are very helpful, which I wish I knew sooner. When your team members come to you, whether you're the agent or whether you're the office manager, and they come to you with a question, if you know the answer, we want to just give them the answer. But the better way to do it, that's going to serve your team member best, even though the team member, again, you can do this in a way, but the way that serve them best is Chandler asked me a question, and I'd say this. I'd say, look, Chandler, I have a few ideas with this. I'm happy to give those to you. But first, what are you thinking you would do? I put it back on Chandler because now I'm helping him come to the solution of what he felt like he would do. And oftentimes the solution that he's already thinking about is the one that I would tell him. But because he came to that realization himself, it's way more powerful. I learned that from coaching salespeople into sales champions. I would recommend if you're in some sort of leadership position, coaching salespeople, putting it in the chat, people into sales champions, one of the best books that I've read that has helped me understand how to train and how to coach. The second thing I would say is feedback. Feedback is important, but we want to make sure that we're giving feedback in a way that empowers our team members. One thing that I learned from one of my team member coaches that we do in our group is in giving feedback, I would keep it very simple, because there are times, guys, when I have team members that I want to give 10 things of feedback to, but we all know if I gave them all 10, it's too overwhelming. That team member leaves without confidence. That's not what I want to do. Remember, we want to empower them. We want to give them confidence. So with feedback, my team member coach, he said, look, I just keep my feedback to 2 things. One thing that they did really well, one thing they can improve on. But again, going back to that coaching salespeople in the Sales Champions book, I don't want to just tell them that. I want to ask them, I want to say, Chandler, what was one thing that you feel like you did really well there? Chandler knows what he did well. Here's the deal. He knows what he did well, so he can now recognize, oh my gosh, I did well there. Then you could say, hey, Chandler, what's one thing you feel like you could improve on? Chandler's going to know what he needs to improve on. But again, getting him to come to that conclusion himself is way more empowering than me just telling it to him. I'll put this in here. Accountability, action item, mindset. There you go.
I love it.
That's what I look through. Yeah.
Colter, you bring up a point, like I always called it emotional intelligence with dealing with people and knowing how to address and work with different people in your office. And what you were saying earlier rings true. And I think I'm going to change my philosophy, because I just give them that dumb look like, dude, what do you think you should do? And maybe I'd come a different way, because I got one in my office like that I think he comes to me almost as reassurance. He knows the answers, but he's got to come to me and ask me. And I'm like, did you look up under XYZ? Because I know he knows it, but he keeps coming to me with that. And so I think I just tell him what it is and walk away. I should do a little better job of actually guiding him to his own answers, helping him find his own answers. So lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Teach somebody to fish, first give him a fish.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too, Chandler. And it's something that I didn't understand it when I was first a team member. I was like, why don't you just give me the answer? I'm so grateful that he challenged me to figure out the answer on my own, because what happens is if we just, as an agent, right? What's the opportunity that you signed up for? Did you sign up for to be a glorified team member or to be a business owner? And the way that you coach and you talk and you communicate with your team will determine how that looks for you, right? If you've conditioned them to every time they come to you that they get the answer, they're going to keep coming to you, right? Instead, why don't you just teach them how to fish so they can go out and do it on their own and empower them in that way, right? People will be so grateful that you challenge them later when they build these skills. But again, if we're just giving them the answers, we're conditioning them that every time they run into an issue, they come to us to get it solved, right? And I'm trying to learn that with my son and parenting. I feel like there's a lot of connections there, but I don't want him to come to dad every time he's got a problem and think that I'm going to solve it. I want him to develop the ability to problem solve, right? And that's again with our teams. Now, there's a question here. Any suggestion on best ways to measure performance or specific KPIs? And then do you suggest one-on-one reviews? I love this. I love how you're thinking about this. I think measuring performance is important, but I think measuring like what we have control over should be at the front of our accountability systems in our agencies. I don't have control if Chandler tells me yes to buying a policy, but I do have control over what I do before then. if I do bring it up. And so instead of just holding myself and my team accountable to results, which I think it still needs to be there, at the front, like the leading indicators need to be like, what do I have control over? I have control if I'm going to bring up the conversation. So I'm going to start tracking that. I think that's one, like pivots. Maybe that's how you can look at that, right? Pivots or conversations started around specific lines of insurance. Like track that. I liked to track my outbound calls as a team member because it allowed me to just have this many calls that I could shoot for every day. And I knew that if I was calling, I could get more pivots, I could get more quotes, and it would work. So I like pivots, I like outbound calls, and I like quotes, right? And those are the things that I stuck with. And then obviously you're tracking the performance to see, hey, Chandler, you're pivoting a lot, but we're not closing policies. Let's work through that. And then I find out, oh my gosh, Chandler's getting stopped every time he brings up life insurance. Now it's a coaching opportunity, right? I know he's doing the activity, so I can rule that out. But it's every time, even though he's doing the activity, he's getting stopped. What is that? Let's go through that. Now we can coach people up. Does that make sense?
I think
Okay.
that's a
Yeah, sorry. And then the last one here is the one-on-one reviews. One-on-one reviews are awesome. The agent that I work for, tremendous leader, right? Like we had quarterly reviews and I always looked forward to those. I enjoyed it because I felt like I could develop a relationship with my agent. I could just talk to him how things were going, but he like we have that communication. And if I got to a point where I would tell him exactly what I'm struggling with, what we're struggling with, and exactly what I'm thinking, instead of keeping it a secret, which team members listening to this phone call, your agents want to know those things. I had team members that I worked with that we do these quarterly reviews, and then they would come to me with the same problem. And I was like, did you talk to the agent about it in your quarterly review? And they're like, no. What do you mean? No, like he wants to know those things. Tell him those things. Agents, they don't have this magic thing where they can automatically know what's going on with you or how you're feeling. It's up to you to communicate, right? It takes two to tango. And so be proactive with that. Let your agent know how things are going, how you're feeling, how they can help. Because I promise you, they want to know those things, right? But that happens in one-on-one reviews. So if you want to systematize it, do quarterly reviews. I loved them. I think it keeps that open communication. So there's not like these unknowns that are happening with both the agent and the team member, right?
I always call that activity versus aptivity. Got to have the activity to get the aptivity. Was the activity breeds aptivity? It's the way I've always worded that one to people. But I love that. That kind of stuff matters.
No, it does. And I think it's ultimately like the accountability piece in our agencies. Like the idea is to keep our team members empowered. The idea is to keep them confident. And the quickest way that I lost confidence and I lost hope in my ability to sell was when I was just holding myself accountable for results. I was only happy when people told me yes to life insurance. And what happens is if you do that and you're only happy with the results, you're married to the results. If the results don't go how you want, you're going to get discouraged. And now it's very hard. It's hard to go against the grain and find consistency because you're only happy if you get results, right? And so there's a lot that's out of your control, right? You're giving control to an outside source where it's like, instead, dial in, double down on what you can control. And if you hit those things that you can control, even if you don't sell a policy that day, you celebrate with yourself. You did what you can control. That's how consistency happens. At least how it happened for me.
200 policies a year. What he did is he went to an old folks home and just signed everybody up.
Yeah, that's right. Can you imagine?
Or he was in Washington State.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Here. I don't see any questions on here. I do want you, can you post in here though for people that are interested in the link to your website?
Yeah, guys, go check it out. There's a lot of more resources other than, hey, join us, right? Of course, I'd love you guys to join us. We've got a fun community. We systematize the training. Every Friday we train, right? We go through and train. Then on Wednesdays we practice. We've got a sales league. Team members get to compete with each other, fun prizes every month, and some on-demand stuff, scripts, everything like that. We're about to start our objection series. In fact, today was our first call. We did like a basic overview of objections and how to prevent them from happening in the first place, because I think that's overlooked. But also, what do we do when an objection comes up? Do we have a framework? And then over the next 8 to 10 weeks, we're training on specific objections. Like, I have life insurance through work, and we're going to know exactly what to say. We'll have the script. We're going to work on our delivery and then introduce more complexity as we go. So it's a fun group. But yeah, on the website, there's access to, I do a podcast. Go check that out. There's a link to that. There's some free resources you can check out as well. And then there's an option to connect with me and I can answer any questions you have and go into detail what we do if you want.
Colter, as always, I appreciate you coming on doing this stuff. And I will give you one thing. My team is one of the most picky teamers with how they get trained and stuff. they really do enjoy your podcast. They like it. They relate to it very well, which is one of the things I may think that makes it different and special for training and things like that, is it comes from a much more perspective. I think sometimes they don't feel like it's somebody telling them what to do that hasn't done it type of thing. So we appreciate you coming on and giving your time to us again, and hope to have you on in the future. And guys, we look forward to seeing everybody on next week's call. Dennis, do you know who we have next week?
Let me check. I always forget. Oh, we have Austin next week. So Austin O'Brien talking about life insurance sales processes. So I know a lot of big life stuff's happening right now with some carriers. So it's perfect time to really drill down on how to increase your life numbers right now. So that'll be should be a good session. So everyone should see the invites start going out for that tomorrow. And as always, we'll send out the recording of a Colter session here. You'll either see it this evening or tomorrow morning at the latest. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to review it, we'll be sending that out ASAP.
And we'll have Colter's contact information on that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll have Colter's website or his organization's website, and then we'll have his contact information as well. So if you want to get in touch with him and join some of his trainings, you can contact him through the email we send out.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Colter. And we look forward to seeing everybody next week.
This was great. Appreciate you guys and your time. Means a lot.
Yeah. Thanks again, Colter. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.